Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek coming back with another battle from the tournament being hosted by Shadow Online Gaming, who you can find a link to his channel in the description of this video, where he has all of the battles being posted. He's posting 3 battles a day. What a champ. The tournament is nearing its end. We're in the finals and the semifinals and all that jazz at this point. But I thought I'd show y'all another battle. This time I'm up against General Confusion, who to my understanding is a YouTuber that didn't really do too much Total War Warhammer stuff until recently. Like, he just picked it up. But anyway, so I am taking the Beastmen up against General Confusion's Skaven. So I'm fighting against the Skaven again. But I think that tends to work out in my favor, as Skaven are a fairly difficult army to play very, very well. As you can see, there's already artillery fire being traded right at the onset, so let's go ahead and go over both the armies. For mine, I've got a pretty expensive but elite army. I've got Karuk's Man-Rippers, Blackhorn's Ravengers, the Destroyers of the Drakewald, and then the only non-Regiment of Renown unit I have in my front line is a Goreherd with shields, up to double silver chevron, so still a pretty expensive unit. Then I've got Morgar the Shadowgave with his full setup. I've got a bodyguard for him, which is a unit of Minotaurs with great weapons. Then I've got the Eye of Morslib, who is probably my favorite Regiment of Renown in the game at the moment, or at least one of them. I really like the monstrous Regiments of Renown, especially when they're actually good. Sorry, Chill of Sontar. And then for him, I've got a bodyguard of Ungor's Spearman Herd, just in case. Then for magic, I brought a Brave Shaman of Death on a chariot. He's got Spirit Leech, Doom and Darkness, and the Jagged Dagger. And then here in the forest, I've hidden a group of Harpies, and I've got another one over here. And then I have one unit of Ungor Raiders who are just there to shoot any potential Hell Pit Abomination or what have you. For the Skaven front line, he's got 4 units of Clan Rats with shields, 3 units of Plague Monks. He's got Lord Skrulk here with quite a few abilities. He's got Aura of Pestilence, and then for spells, he brought Bless with Filth, Wither, Vermintide, and Petulant Burst. So he brought 4 spells, so not a cheap amount. Hopefully he got good starting ones of magic. Then he's got 2 starting units of Rat Ogres, a unit of 2 units of Skaven Slaves with slings, and then 2 units of Night Runners with slings that also have some we got a double chevron, double bronze chevron, so fairly accurate, and they'll hit reasonably hard. Then he's got another unit of Clan Rat Spears with shields here guarding this Warp Lightning Cannon, and then he's got, of course, the Hell Pit Abomination, which is probably one of the coolest monsters in the game just because its animations are so unique and crazy. So without further ado, this is a pretty quick and vicious battle, so let's just get into it. Looking at his army, he has kind of a better designed artillery considering the matchup. Obviously, stone throwers are really, really good, especially when you get a perfect shot like that just killed 15 rats instantly. But that Warp Lightning Cannon will put some damage on my fairly elite army, so I need to close this gap quick. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm, of course, just pelting away at his Plague Monks, because I recognize they're the only infantry he has that's threatening to me. The Harpies are going in, just trying to be distracting and absorb missile fire, while the rest of my army approaches to crash into his front line. And I don't really care about the Harpies, I'm literally just throwing them at the Warp Lightning Cannon to shut it off the line for a second. Here, the front line is crashing all down the line. His army's charging in, the Minotaurs go barreling into the Plague Monks and Lord Skrulk, with Mortar running up behind him while I keep throwing rocks at this Plague Monk unit. Oh yeah, I also had a unit of Synagors with great weapons. I'm not sure where they were hiding, but they are running around the back. Unfortunately, I wasn't microwaving that particular part of the battlefield very well, so they just sort of waddled. Me and the Rat Ogres just sort of waddled into each other here. Neither of us got the charge. We literally just walked into each other. You can see all of the shooting attacks from these 4 missile units, plus the Warp Lightning Cannon, has caused my Minotaurs to go ahead and panic. They also did take quite a bit of damage. They're about 50% health, so they're getting the hell out of dodge. Mortar is very isolated, but I do pop the Call of Violence for the leadership buff, and now my front line is starting to buckle through his because I just have way super elite infantry. My Synagors do manage to get the heck out of dodge. My Death Wizard is just sort of running around getting charges where he can. The Harpies have completely shattered the Warp Lightning Cannon already. Korax Man-Whippers are fighting against the Hell Pit Abomination, which is an ideal matchup for them. And I summoned a unit of Chaos Spawn in the back line here to run into these guys, hopefully take them offline, but if nothing else, block their shooting attacks. The Harpies are swooping in to help. And here, Lord Skrulk over-chases by quite a bit because all these other units are getting stuck on my Man-Rippers. And so I pop a Spirit Leech on him, and then Cynagors are running in, the Brave Shaman of Death is running in, and Morgar's here, all fighting against Skrulk, who's completely by himself. And he just gets absolutely
charging battery.
Oop, pardon that. So he has he has virtually no armor, fairly low, like pretty good melee defense, but when you're completely surrounded by it like that, it's not going to matter. At this point, the battle line's pretty much gone. With Skrulk broken and there being no other characters on the battlefield, the Skaven leadership is collapsing in on itself. The Hell Pit Abomination is getting torn apart by Korax Man-Rippers. The back line was completely decimated by the Harpies since there wasn't really an organized way to defeat them. And at this point, the only thing that's really a threat to me is the Rat Ogres. But with their general basically gone and me having reinforcing Spearman units coming in, and I've been overcasting. So you see there, I did an overcast Doom and Darkness, so it had area of effect minus 16 leadership. Causes all these guys to break prematurely, and because the rest of the army is so low leadership and just not that powerful and Skrulk is gone, the rest of the army just starts completely collapsing in on itself without these units being able to reinforce. And because I use that upgraded Doom and Darkness, I literally just tell my Cynagors and my Minotaurs to chase these guys, and they're going to just chase them off no problem. And there's the Summon Chaos Spawn, but that's it! Very, very, very quick battle. We just sort of kind of ran at each other and clapped. So, looking at the battle replay, you can tell my army came out fairly in good condition. It didn't take a ton of damage in comparison to the Skaven. Ultimately, what it boils down to is the Skaven front line just got completely buckled by my front line. Mine was much more expensive, granted, with the Goreherds with shields, and then the rest of them were all, Regiments of Renown, so they're rank 9 with killer stats. Plus, the Skaven did not have an efficient way to deal with the Harpies. I mean, he was able to turn and shoot at them, sure, but the problem was he didn't have any units close by that were really capable of fending them off, because there are so many Harpies that they can easily not only swoop in and take out the Warp Lightning Cannon prematurely, but any of these ranged units, even if he had turned to start firing at them, the Harpies could have easily just changed direction, swooped in, and attacked him. And to make things worse, because I had a Death Wizard, that's kind of the anthem of doom for the Skaven is a Death Wizard. Because you just use Spirit Leech to get rid of their general, and of course, with that upgraded Doom and Darkness, you just spam cast that on wherever the biggest fight is, especially if you have a terror causer there, which I didn't have anyone causing terror in that battle, but I did have fear causers with Morgar and the Chaos Spawn he kept summoning. And that's just going to cause the Skaven line to completely buckle. On top of that, my opponent, General Confusion, I want to say is a little bit new. He did make a couple of critical errors during that battle. For instance, Skrulk ran out way ahead of his army and got really isolated. Especially since I had a superior front line, it probably would have been better to keep Skrulk further back and just been spam casting summons and only send Skrulk in when he was absolutely necessary. And probably using his Liber Bubonicus to get rid of the Death Wizard as quickly as possible. Because Morgar, you don't want to hit with that, which is who he was spamming it on. Morgar, you generally don't want to use single target abilities like Spirit Leech or Liber Bubonicus because he has such high magic resistance and he regenerates. So you're really not going to get your mileage out of it. It's much, much better to throw it against a casting character like the Brave Shaman of Death who can't regenerate and doesn't have any special defenses against it. On top of that, the Skaven front line, the Plague Monks were strong enough to get rid of like my basic infantry, but they did not have a hope of dealing with the Bestigors. Korax Man-Rippers, you're always going to see on the battlefield if you're playing Skaven against Beastmen, and you need to have a reliable way to deal with them. Personally, I actually think a Plague Claw Catapult, or maybe two of them, would have done a lot better than a single Warp Lightning Cannon. Granted, that's based on the build your opponent has. Obviously, if they have like 3 units of Centaurs with throwing axes, it's going to be a different story. But, there were just some kind of critical mistakes. Skrulk got really isolated and just got torn apart and didn't manage to get any kills. I think he got off maybe a Rod of Corruption, a couple summons, and a Liber Bubonicus, and then he was dead. On top of that, the Hell Pit Bomb, or the Warp Lightning Cannon, the spearmen that were defending it. Whenever you're defending a unit, like a siege weapon, you want to position the spearmen on top of the crew. That way, unless you're being like shot at, in which case you want to separate them a little bit so your opponent isn't getting too many bonus casualties. But if you have a unit like Harpies swooping down on you, you just want to layer the bodyguard unit on top of the troops firing the cannon. That way, they will be not only protecting those guys by body blocking for them, but they'll also be able to immediately attack anything that swoops down on them. The final thing that I would say is that the Hell Pit Abomination picked a really bad engagement. It just sort of ran into the front line and just plowed into Karak's Man-Rippers, and because of that, it got torn apart and only got 3 kills. Like, it didn't do a ton of damage, and it barely killed any models. Karak's Man-Rippers took more damage fighting the Clinton Rats than they did fighting the Hell Pit, which is not great. In any event, though, great game to General Confusion. I'm glad to see more people, more YouTubers and more people joining the community in the game, and I look forward to seeing how his career pans out. But in any event, that's another Skaven game for you guys. Don't worry, I don't fight any more Skaven for the rest of the tournament, if memory serves. And I look forward to showing you guys the rest of the game. I'll also be casting some other games I have from other various tournaments and such. And in any event, I hope you all have a great day. I'm going to go work on some stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye.